When I was critically ill, Peter refused to give me medicine. He said that my feigned illness disgusted him. He indulged his non-blood-related sister in mistreating me and even slept with her. After my death, Peter regretted deeply, burning incense and praying daily. Eventually, he successfully returned to being 23 years old, going back to the year when I showed interest in him despite being penniless. Feeling confident, he wanted to rekindle our relationship. Little did he know, I was also reborn. Before me, my secretary was engaged in a heated argument with someone, that person being Melody. She had recklessly taken my car out to show off and ended up scratching it. My secretary demanded compensation from her. Instead of agreeing, she invoked Peter. Do you know who my brother is? He is the boyfriend of Miss Lily, the future son-in-law of her family. You, a mere secretary, dare to offend him? She further added, and me. I am the future sister-in-law of Miss Lily. In the future, everything of hers will be mine. Why should I compensate? I was momentarily lost in thought. In that year, I was 23. I hadn't died yet, and the family fortune hadn't been ruined by this brother-sister pair. I was still the only daughter of the wealthiest family in the city and was already in a relationship with Peter. My judgment was clouded, deceived by Peter's hypocritical facade. I was infatuated with him, wishing to give him everything I had to offer. Consequently, I also indulged his sister, Melody. I financed the education of these impoverished siblings, even supporting Melody to pursue a master's degree in chemistry. However, she, in return, used her knowledge to poison me. Eventually, I fell seriously ill with a rare disease. This, even Peter was unaware of. During the final stages of my life, Peter confined me, publicly proclaiming my illness while assuming the role of the company's leader as my husband. However, he had no knowledge that my illness was genuine. Melody hid my medical reports and told Peter that I was feigning illness. When I pleaded with Peter for medicine, he callously remarked, "Your feigned illness truly disgusts me." I can never forget the coldness in his eyes at that moment. As for the reason Melody poisoned me, I only discovered it moments before my death. She and Peter had no blood relation at all. She had been secretly in love with Peter for a long time, but Peter was solely focused on climbing the social ladder. Melody harbored hatred towards me but couldn't hinder her brother's ambitions, so she resorted to prolonged poisoning. During the peak of my illness, Melody successfully ascended Peter's bed. I eventually perished in endless despair. Currently, the young Melody is still causing trouble. I said, "Can you repeat the entire incident again? I didn't catch it clearly earlier." After Melody recounted it, Peter confidently added, "I gave the car keys to my sister." "You're not upset, are you?" He seemed convinced that I would forgive him. I simply smiled, turned to my secretary, and asked, "Is everything recorded? The incident of them stealing the car." "What?" Both siblings were dumbfounded. Peter had the most significant reaction. "No, you shouldn't say that." "Then what should I say?" "You should say it's okay, we don't need them to compensate." That's what I said in my previous life. At that time, blinded by love, and in consideration of Peter's face, I generously forgave Melody. It seems like Peter had also been reborn. Seeing me silent for a long time, Peter thought I was wavering. "Lily, you don't lack this bit of money. From now on, we're all family, and Melody is your sister-in-law. There's no need to be so petty, okay?" I slapped him across the face, saying, "Who said we're family?" Peter was stunned. Melody stood in front of him. "Lily, how dare you hit my brother? Do you know he could decide not to want you when he gets angry?" Without a word, I slapped her too. Melody completely lost it. "You only have a few dirty coins. Who cares?" She wanted to retaliate but was surrounded by my family's bodyguards. "It's for the best that you don't care." I wiped my hands, instructed my secretary, and cut off all ties with Peter and them, including withdrawing all support, even Melody's tuition fees. Additionally, my car, full compensation, not a cent less. Melody sat paralyzed on the ground. Peter finally reacted, "Lily, are you mad at me? It was my fault for not overseeing Melody, allowing her to damage your car. I'll make her apologize formally to you." Waving him off, my bodyguards blocked him. Can't you understand human language? I coldly gazed at him, telling him to leave. Peter tried everything to win me back. Although he had been reborn, he now had nothing. Hoping to effortlessly gain mansions and luxury cars, he could only try to please me once again. For instance, standing at my doorstep in pouring rain, drenching himself, hoping to soften my heart. Peter had an irresistible charm, a born swindler. My parents hadn't even seen through his true nature initially. However, I wouldn't be fooled again. A week later, Peter fell ill as he wished. As soon as he fell sick, Melody came knocking on the door, pretending to be solicitous. "Sister-in-law, would you visit my brother? He's running a high fever, repeating your name non-stop." "I'm not your sister-in-law, stop calling me that." She gritted her teeth, forcing a smile. "My brother is a faithful person. Once he decides on you, you're my sister-in-law." She liked Peter, but had to say these words against her true feelings. I spat out a watermelon seed and watched her play acting. "Sister-in-law, I know you're mad at me, but don't create unpleasantness with my brother because of my faults. Oh, by the way, I've brought you a freshly squeezed fruit juice that I made. You mentioned not wanting to consume beverages with too many additives, so I bought the freshest fruits this morning from the market." I looked at the crimson liquid in the bottle and inquired, "Did you poison this?" Melody's expression shifted in panic. "How could you think that of me, sister-in-law? Just joking." I smirked. The long-term poisoning had begun at this moment. Through this test, I confirmed that Melody had not been reborn. Seizing an opportunity, I stated, "Actually, I've been concerned about Peter's health after hearing of his illness, and I was planning on visiting him." Melody was taken aback. "Why, you're going to see him? Isn't that the reason you came?" Evidently, she didn't want me to have any contact with Peter again. Upon reaching their home, I sent Melody out to buy something. Then, I poured the fruit juice into a glass and handed it to Peter. "Lily, what's this?" "It's fruit juice. Recently, everyone in my family loves drinking this freshly squeezed juice. You're sick, so you should get extra vitamin C." As soon as Peter heard that everyone in my family drank it, he immediately drained the glass. "Lily, your wealthy family surely drinks good stuff. I knew you still love me." "Don't tell Melody, I brought only one glass." I wasn't concerned at all about him revealing it. This brother-sister pair was far more selfish than I had imagined. In moments of solitude, Peter would surely keep it a secret from his sister. And Melody, to be a good sister, wouldn't disclose the poisoning. Both harbored ulterior motives, which happened to be my advantage. However, I never anticipated that this brother-sister pair were even more shameless than I had thought. Given the chance to start anew, I couldn't afford to focus all my energy on a scoundrel and a despicable woman. There were many things I needed to do. First and foremost, I entered the company early, studying harder than anyone else. My parents were proud, saying I had grown up. They didn't know that everything I did was to protect this family. Immersed in work, I had overlooked the actions of the Joe siblings. One day, my phone buzzed with messages. "Hello! Could you stop taking our clothes drying in the yard? Can't you afford clothes yourself?" During my coming-of-age ceremony, my dad gifted me a small villa in the suburbs. I felt it was too far from the company, so I had left it unoccupied all this time. Constantly receiving messages accusing me of what was happening in that house. What's going on? I hadn't lived in that house at all. I immediately contacted the community guards, who informed me that just a week ago, a young couple had blatantly moved in. "Miss Lily, didn't you let them stay there?" The property management was puzzled. "The young man claimed to be your boyfriend and even showed me your photos." I promptly understood. It was Peter and Melody. But how did they gain access to the house? I rushed to the villa with security. Peter was absent, only Melody was there. She had her head wrapped in a scarf, a face mask on, and sunglasses, embodying a lavish demeanor. Loud music blared from the speakers. If I hadn't guessed wrong, even those sunglasses on her face belonged to me. I yanked off her sunglasses, demanding, "Who allowed you to come in?" Unperturbed, Melody replied, "It's my brother's house. Of course, I can stay here." "Nonsense, this is my house. Isn't yours my brother's? What's the difference? Have a little dignity, okay? Right now, immediately, get out of my house." Lily, how can you be like this? Melody appeared aggrieved. It's my brother's house. I can definitely live here. Rubbish. This is my house. If yours is my brother's, is there a distinction to be made? Show some face, okay? With outsiders present, Peter assumed a sophisticated and gentle demeanor, trying to persuade me. The security and management believed his lies. I asked, "How did you get in?" "I have a fingerprint lock here." What? You brought me to see this house before, and that day you had my fingerprint recorded, remember? Yes, that did happen. But I didn't ask him to record my fingerprint at all, he insisted on doing it himself. Just because he recorded a fingerprint, do you think you have the right to use it? The previous house was small and run down, and still required rent. Since you were not living in this house, I decided to make full use of it. I said, "We have already broken up, and for your unauthorized entry into my home, I will call the police." Peter didn't believe me at all. Instead he laughed. "You are quite the joker. We are destined to be a family eventually. Isn't your house my house as well?" "Who said we are family? Is the baby shy?" "Stop kidding, His voice was low and oily, making my scalp tingle. Before I could say anything else, he turned to the security guard. "Sorry about that, my girlfriend has been giving me a hard time lately, making you guys come here for nothing. Next time, I'll treat you two to a meal." His smile was polite, almost flawless. I didn't argue anymore. I just picked up my phone and made a call. "Hello, is this the police? There is someone illegally trespassing in my home. The property certificate is in my name. The one who made the purchase is my father." Peter and his sister were completely taken aback. Until they were taken away, Peter couldn't believe that I actually called the police. They faced about 10 days of detention. But that's not the end of it. I visited Peter in the detention center. As they were separated for detention, they first passed by Melody's room. She was screaming and shouting like a madwoman inside. On the other hand, Peter was much quieter. After a few days without shaving, Peter looked a bit haggard, but when he saw me, hope sparked in his eyes. "Lily, I knew you would come to visit me. Is the food here any good?" He couldn't help but show disdain. "Those things are not fit for human consumption. Lily, I want to eat from an upscale restaurant." Since there is no lounge, I brought other snacks. I took out a lunchbox filled with pastries. Needless to say, they were all sent by Melody. Peter ate heartily and asked, "Did you make all of these?" "No, they were made by someone I know." "A Michelin star pastry chef?" I just smiled without saying anything. Peter enjoyed the food and asked, "Did you specially send food for me, Lily? Are you regretting it?" "Regret what?" "Regret playing such a big joke on me. But it's okay, as long as you go to the police now and explain it's a misunderstanding and have us released. I promise not to be mad at you." I unfolded a document. "You're thinking too much. I'm only worried about you starving here, with no one to compensate me. Besides the overdue vehicle insurance listed in the document, there are also damages to the property while they were staying in my house. Among them was a small cow figurine that Melody didn't like and threw away. But that thing is a limited edition piece by an artist abroad, worth millions." Peter was dumbfounded. "No, Lily, are you serious?" "Of course. Do you want us to compensate? Otherwise? It is only right to pay back debts. Even children know that." He frowned. "Something's not right." "What's not right?" Suspicion flickered across his face. "Lily, have you also been reborn?" I burst into laughter. "Is it the kind of rebirth you're thinking of, Peter? Have you been reading too many fantasy novels?" Without waiting for his reply, I continued to speculate. "Or are you trying to evade compensation by acting crazy?" My expression was not acting. Peter was relieved. He continued to coax and beg for my forgiveness. He even said with emotion, "Lily, don't blame Melody for damaging your car. We grew up without parents, couldn't afford enough food. The first time she saw a Porsche, she was too excited. You can tell, both of you lack proper upbringing. If you want to blame someone, blame me. As an older brother, I didn't discipline her properly." "Fine, shall I bear the compensation alone?" Peter hesitated for a moment, realizing that I was not buying into his act. Eventually, he dropped the facade. How did I not realize before? You're such a materialistic woman. Just because I used your car and house, you're making such a big deal out of it. Lily, I really misunderstood you. He lamented, and I smiled. Since you put it that way, then I won't be polite. Here, add another 100,000 for the stained sofa and carpet till the 10-day detention came to an end. The siblings were facing a compensation of over $1 million. Unable to afford it, what could they do? Peter had to swallow his pride and come back to plead with me. His intentions were quite easy to guess, that he thought that as long as we got back together, not only could he waive the compensation, but he could also rightfully use my house and car. Meanwhile, my plan was about to enter the next phase. While arranging for a lawyer to press for the compensation, I made a reappearance at his most anxious moment. Peter had average capabilities at work, and after we started dating, he had quit his job waiting to be welcomed into our wealthy family. Unexpectedly, I abruptly broke up with him and demanded compensation. Peter had to go out hunting for jobs again. But I had made it clear to the circle of people that whoever employed him would be making an enemy out of us. Peter faced rejection after rejection. When he sat on the roadside looking forlorn like a stray dog, I showed up. "What are you doing here?" I asked, pretending to be surprised. Just got off work. He wouldn't tell me that he couldn't find a job. "You look tired." He forced a smile. "Lily, can't you forgive me? Based on the love we once had, it's not completely impossible." With this statement, Peter almost jumped up, his face showing signs of hope again. I asked him to get in the car, took him out for a meal at a Michelin-starred restaurant he liked. Then, I drove him around, showing him the night views. As he rolled down the car window, sitting up straight, basking in the envious looks of passers-by, he said, "Lily, I really can't be without you. Being with you feels so good." "Is it good because you can't be without money? I truly love you. During the days I lost you, I could hardly get a good night's sleep." Peter began to act again. He pretended to be on the verge of tears for a while, but no tears fell. However, he continued to fake wiping the corner of his eyes. "Lily, you said earlier you could forgive me?" "Yes, but I have a condition." "You name it, I'll agree to any condition, really?" "Okay." With a faint smile, I said, "If you send Melody away, I will forgive you." Peter was taken aback. "Send her away?" It seemed like he wasn't prepared for that. "Peter, I've been thinking a lot during this time, and I don't dislike you, I just don't like Melody. As long as she never appears in front of me again, I can forgive you. But, she is still my sister, we grew up together. If you don't agree, it's fine, I don't want to be unreasonable." I deliberately patted the Porsche logo and let out a sigh. "Peter, I really feel sorry for you. She damaged your car, made trouble, and you have to clean up after her. It must be tough being an older brother like this." My words seemed to strike a chord with Peter. I continued to up the ante, without making her suffer. "Can't you just send her back to our hometown? Once she's gone, the issue of compensation will be forgotten, and we can live well together." Peter hesitated. "You don't want to?" "I understand, after all, she's family. It's a shame, my dad is rushing me to get engaged and married now. Initially, I wanted to take you to meet my parents." Meeting the parents means that he's closer to his identity as a wealthy in-law. Peter readily agreed. "Okay, I agree." "So fast, much quicker than I thought. Are you sure?" "What if Melody gets angry?" "If she does, let her be angry, she caused such trouble herself, it's already a favor letting her off easily." They were so close just a while ago. Now Peter was changing his tune so quickly that the next day, he bought a ticket, deceitfully took Melody on a trip, and tricked her back to the countryside. It was said that Melody threw a tantrum on the spot. It's unknown how Peter resolved it, but in the end, he managed to accomplish this. Peter came to boast to me about it. Per our agreement, I pretended to get back together with him. He was ecstatic. But little did he know, this was just the beginning of his descent into the abyss. Peter reverted to his previous lavish lifestyle. I gave him pocket money so he didn't have to work and suffer. Of course, he was happy, reveling in luxury every day. But every expense he incurred, I made my secretary diligently record it. I also instructed people in our circle to flatter him every time they saw him. The friends were all very savvy, calling him brother-in-law. Peter was being excessively praised. Before long, he had completely become a worthless person. In addition to overindulging daily, he also had the extra meals I provided him with. Melody would send handmade snacks from the countryside, perhaps stocking up on stolen goods from the laboratory before returning home. But she had no idea. All those delicacies ended up in Peter's stomach. In this way, Peter ate, drank, and played for 3 months. During this period, I purposely went on a business trip abroad to avoid contact with him. When I returned, Peter appeared before me immediately. "Lily, were you avoiding me on purpose?" His expression was not very good. "No, I've just been really busy recently." "Look, here's a gift for you." It was an expensive luxury necklace. Peter perked up when he saw the brand, just as I had expected. "I knew you still loved me." "Babe, being with me still feels great." "Babe, actually, I've been thinking recently about something, and I need your help. What's that?" "I want to enter your family's company, preferably in a management position you arrange for me." I almost couldn't help but roll my eyes at him. It's no wonder that Peter has come up with this plan, since he's been thinking about my family's assets for 2 lifetimes. How could he easily give up? He wants to move up in management, but it's also to have better control over me in the future. Pretending not to know about his plans, I asked, "Why suddenly want to work? Isn't it good to sleep in every day until you naturally wake up? After all, I am your future husband. You still need to achieve something. But our family's company is highly competitive. It's not easy to get ahead." Peter confidently said, "It's simple, just give the credit for others' performance to me, right?" He shamelessly made the suggestion. "Darling, you wouldn't be unwilling to do even this small favor for me, would you?" Peter smiled. "Don't look at me like that, I'm also thinking about our future. If I perform well now, your father won't make things difficult for me in the future, and you can easily marry me. Isn't that great?" I remembered. In my previous life, before marrying Peter, my father had doubts about his work ability. That's why he's come up with this idea now. After pondering for a moment, I said, "Actually, I have a better idea." "What?" "Peter, do you want to be a star?" Peter's eyes widened immediately. I briefly explained. I had decided to enter the entertainment industry and wanted to lift up an artist first. Among many choices, his appearance stood out the most. "All appearance fees and pay will be divided 7-3, with me getting the smaller share, because you are my boyfriend. But, as an artist, it will be hard work, with filming schedules every day. Are you willing?" "Willing. I'm more than willing." Peter was excited. "Darling, when do we start?" "It's up to your schedule." "I'm ready anytime." "Oh my, Lily, I truly love you. Becoming a star has always been my dream, but it seemed too distant. Thankfully you're here." He was about to kiss me as he held my face, but I managed to dodge in time. "Peter, just a heads up, you can't flirt with those beauties in the industry." "Of course, darling, you're the only one in my heart. I'll be a big star from now on." Immersed in joy, Peter didn't even notice my disgusted expression. Making him a public figure was just a setup for his downfall. I quickly arranged for Peter's debut. Going on variety shows, building up fan clubs, all to distract him. Peter indeed had a good appearance and quickly gained attention and a growing fan base. I planned for him to start filming, but he ran away from the set after just a few days. He claimed that filming was too tiring and that appearing on variety shows was easier and more profitable. I was left speechless. Meanwhile, Melody started sending me more snacks. As per my expectations, the experimental items she had stolen should have been used up by now. Why was she sending more frequently? There was only one possibility: she had quietly returned to Beijing. I had my people investigate, and soon confirmed my guess. Peter, with a bit of money in hand, promptly arranged for Melody to come back and return to school. Of course, all of this was done behind my back. The secretary asked, "Should we confront them now?" "No, it's not the right time. Melody is a crucial part of the plan. Her return is better than me seeking her out later." Next, I told the secretary, "It's time to remind the school whether things have been missing from the lab recently." The secretary did as I said. Sure enough, in the following period, Melody stopped sending me food. But soon, I did something that shocked everyone, publicly announcing my romantic relationship with Peter. Initially, Peter was against it. He was on the rise in his career. How could he make the relationship public now? I didn't force him, just reduced his appearances and signed a new artist with a similar persona to him. Peter had to show affection to me publicly. It wasn't just about going public, but also promoting this relationship. Over time, fans started shipping us, and even online communities were buzzing about us. I had people record live shows to keep an eye on Peter. I didn't allow him to interact too much with female celebrities. Everyone thought I was madly in love with him, not knowing it was all part of my plan. After a while, Peter couldn't take it anymore. He was frustrated. It had been almost 2 years since we rekindled, and I hadn't let him touch me. For a normal man in his 20s, this was torture. On Valentine's night, I promised to go on a date with Peter. I dressed up carefully, looking bold yet sensual. When Peter saw me, his eyes lit up. "Lily, you look beautiful tonight." "Oh well, do I look less beautiful any other day? Of course, you're beautiful every day, it's just that I hardly see you around." Peter complained, "Can't you travel less and spend more time with me alone?" "I wish too." I sighed, "But if I don't work hard, how will my father hand over the company to us in the future? Will we starve after we get married? You are his only daughter, how could he not give it to you?" "It's not that simple." "And, don't you want to join the board of directors?" "I'm building good relationships with them now." "So, while you'll be a big star, you'll also get a share of profit, wouldn't that be great?" Peter, who had already had a few drinks, floated even higher after hearing that. He seemed to have fantasized about his fame and fortune. The feather embellishments on my dress lightly tickled his skin. This made Peter itch. The ambiguity between us was escalating at this moment. "Lily, it's late, we." He leaned in to grab me. Suddenly, the phone rang loudly, interrupting the moment I answered the call, my face changing. "Oh no, my friend had an accident, I have to go." Peter was stunned. "Now?" "Yes, I'm sorry, I'll be back after finishing what I need to do. Can't you skip it?" What kind of friend, such a fool, why didn't they crash into something directly? Peter was frantic, letting out all his frustration. He completely forgot his cultured demeanor. Putting on a coat, I hurried out. "If you're bored, call Melody, it's been a long time since you two siblings met, right?" Returning to the car, I turned on the surveillance. I saw the scene I expected. Peter had indeed called Melody. My mention of Melody earlier was meant to provoke Peter's emotions. With 2 lifetimes of memories, he knew there was no blood relation with Melody. Naturally, he also remembered how they had cheated behind my back in the previous life. The video was connected, and Melody looked surprised. "Bro, it's Valentine's Day today, why are you calling me?" "Where are you now?" "At home, in the house you rented for me." Melody leaned towards the camera, her blouse wide open, but she pretended not to notice. "Bro, thanks to you, I could come back to the city. When you dropped me off, you said, once you deal with that dumb woman, you'd bring me back to enjoy life, and you didn't break your promise. Nonsense, with me there's no woman that can't be conquered." Peter was smug, "We'll spend her money together after this." "Unfortunately, I don't have a partner." Melody showed a hint of vulnerability. "Am I not good enough?" "How could you say that?" "My sister is beautiful, with a great figure." "My figure is much better than that foolish Lily, right, bro?" "Indeed." Peter stared at the screen, his eyes lecherous. "Sis, since the foolish woman isn't home, why don't you come to see me?" "Okay, I'll be right there." Peter waited for this response from Melody. He hurriedly put on a coat and left the house, with the secretary driving behind him discreetly. He was so eager that he didn't notice he was being tailed. On the way, I made a few calls to some journalists. Upon reaching the destination, Peter first bought a coat from a nearby store before rushing upstairs. After waiting for about 20 minutes, the journalists arrived, and then we went upstairs to expose the affair. The secretary kicked the door open at the right moment. Peter and Melody were embracing each other, not wanting to let go. They were both naked. Melody and I screamed simultaneously, but my voice was louder. "Aren't you siblings?" Incest. Neighbors heard the commotion and gathered to look. Peter panicked. The first thing he tried to do was to separate from Melody, but he failed. The journalists went crazy clicking pictures, capturing everything. Stop taking pictures. Peter was furious, spewing profanities. He covered himself with a blanket to shield his body. Ironically, this exposed Melody completely. But Peter didn't care about Melody's condition. "Misunderstanding, it's all a misunderstanding." Lily, listen to me, she seduced me, it's not my fault. Sis. Melody shouted in despair, didn't you say you'd stand by me against the whole world just now? Didn't I express that? Shut up. Melody looked at him in disbelief. Then, in a fit of rage, I said, you told me you loved me the most, being with Lily was just for money, only I could satisfy you physically. Peter grabbed an ashtray and knocked Melody unconscious. The video of Peter's infidelity went viral that night. It wasn't just an ordinary affair. It was with his own sister. This scandal attracted huge attention, not because of Peter's fame, but due to the shocking nature of his infidelity with his sister. Peter's fan club announced immediate disbandment. His loyal fans turned into critics, revealing many negative aspects of his behavior like diva behavior and taking advantage of female celebrities. In Peter's Weibo, there were disgusting words all over. Peter quickly issued a statement that he and Melody were not blood-related. But so what? Cheating cannot be whitewashed. Peter's reputation was ruined, all his resources were withdrawn. I, on behalf of the company, also announced the termination of our contract with him and joined the brands he endorsed, the production teams he participated in, to demand compensation from him. This includes all the amounts he owed me in the past 2 years. The total was over tens of millions of dollars. With such a huge amount, if he doesn't compensate, he can only spend the rest of his life in prison. Peter finally saw through the scheme I orchestrated. Unfortunately, he realized it too late. He hated me to the core and wildly posted accusations, claiming that I was malicious and that everything was my plan. But it was all in vain, as the netizens' eyes were sharp. If he hadn't cheated, he wouldn't have to fear being manipulated by others. Furthermore, Melody had a falling out with him. Her reputation was completely ruined. At the same time, the school laboratory also revealed the results of their investigation. Melody was indeed the thief. The school authorities were furious and made the investigation report public. It was on the day when the police were about to take Melody away that a surprising piece of news emerged. Melody was dead. Her death was so sudden. Early one morning, she was found dead at the foot of a mountain by sanitation workers. The police speculated that she might have slipped and fallen off a cliff. The matter of stealing from the lab was left unresolved. About a month later, Peter was intercepted at the airport. He was trying to escape abroad, but where would he get the money from? Upon investigation, it was found that a large sum of money had suddenly appeared in Peter's bank account. Thinking of Melody's death, 2 words flashed through my mind: insurance fraud. However, since Peter had been buying insurance for Melody all along and not just before the incident, it was hard to determine his guilt. But what if Melody's death was not an accident? I felt that something was amiss, so I asked professionals to conduct a second investigation. Sure enough, a missed clue was found. On the night of Melody's incident, surveillance footage captured Peter driving down from the mountain alone. In other words, that evening, Melody had climbed the mountain with Peter. As more clues were unearthed, the truth gradually emerged. The owner of the snack stall at the entrance of Melody's school also became a witness. He said that on the day of the incident, he saw Peter waiting outside for Melody. Because the brother and sister had just been in the hot search, he vaguely remembered them. After the two left in the car, Melody never returned. On a calm morning, Peter was apprehended and brought to justice. Until the very end, Melody could not believe that her beloved brother, whom she admired, had killed her. Some online sympathized with Melody, saying she was just a poor woman who admired a non-blood-related brother. But I had no sympathy for her at all. Melody was my killer, and in this life, she still planned to kill me. It was too easy for her to die like that. Therefore, the poisoning incident had to be made public. But it couldn't be done by me personally. After Peter was imprisoned, I visited him once. He had lost his former charisma, but seemed to think he still had plenty of charm. He tried to grab onto the last hope, crying out, "Lily, save me." I was foolish and fell for Melody's trap, but my heart only belongs to you. I truly love you. Love me? I sneered coldly behind the glass. Love me? Would you cheat on me with Melody? Love me? Would you confine me? Love me? Would you ignore my increasingly frail body and believe I was just pretending to be sick? Peter froze. You have also been reborn. That's right, but unlike you, I didn't reveal my cards so early. After a moment of silence, Peter asked, since you have also been reborn, do you know why? Why? After your death, I regretted deeply, burning incense and praying day and night, begging the heavens for a chance to start over, to treat you well. That's why we have this life together. But you're still acting, trying to fool me. Do you think I'm stupid? Peter. Is this the reason for your regret? I ruthlessly exposed your sister's inheritance. In the previous life, I had actually left a contingency plan. Sensing the ambition of the siblings, I secretly prepared a will. In the event of my death, the property would not be divided with the spouse. In other words, if I had not died, Peter could still have gotten something by virtue of being the husband. But once I died, he wouldn't get a penny. This will preserve our family's wealth and shattered Peter's dreams of a wealthy family. Let me guess, you prayed to the gods and wanted to start over again just to have more control over me and my will, right? Peter's face turned pale, unable to say a word. Before the end of the visit, I left him a big gift. Do you know where your sister took those stolen lab items? He shook his head. I really have nothing to do with that. Don't pin her crimes on me. Don't worry, this crime won't be on you. It's just. I looked at him with pity. I had a strange illness in the past life, but not in this one. Do you know why? Peter shuddered. 6 months later, Peter was sentenced to death. The insurance money, yet to be spent, was all reimbursed to us. The death penalty was not carried out immediately. But I heard that Peter had already fallen ill. Tormented by sickness in prison, he was kept alive by drugs. He could die only by the law, not by illness. For him, this was a kind of torture. Each day he lived, he faced a dual shadow of pain and the death penalty. Eventually, the news of Melody's poisoning was leaked outside the prison. After all, Peter was going crazy, telling everyone, right? No one was sympathetic towards Melody anymore. On the day of Peter's execution, he was already a wretched sight from suffering. As for me, on the day of Peter's death, I officially took over the family business. I continued my studies. Since I had no talent in love, I poured all my passion into my work. Under my management, the company thrived. At the age of 30, the family business reached new heights. I think not marrying for a lifetime is not a big deal. Being by my parents' side is my greatest happiness.